Hello, everybody, and welcome to 2024. This year we wanted to kick things off on the right foot, so we decided to set up some interviews. First up to the plate is with a stand-up comedian and viral TikTok sensation, Che Durena. We were able to catch some time with him ahead of his upcoming Just For Laughs Vancouver performance set for February. If you didn't already know, Just For Laughs Vancouver has become a real mainstay in the Vancouver area. Every year they bring dozens of live comedy shows in various venues in and around the Vancouver area. For the 2024 installment, it will be running from February 15th to February 24th. And if you want to find out more information about their upcoming schedule or anything about them, you can check them out at jflvancouver.com. As for Che Durena, he has become a viral sensation. You may know him for his gonzo-style comedy, his fan interactions, his sex positivity, and just being an all-around hilarious dude. You can catch him at the Vogue Theatre as part of the Just For Laughs Vancouver on February 24th. Do not miss the show. It will be super hilarious. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Mr. Che Durena. Che Durena, how's it going today?
I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah,
Yeah, been a pretty chill day so far today. It's cold as hell in New York. Well, I mean, compared to Canada, it's not
yeah,
that bad. It's like -4 today.
yeah,
But for New York, that's pretty cold.
yeah. All right, cool. Yeah, we got a winter blast over here in the Vancouver area, so everybody's crashing their cars and
Oh, you guys got the full like snowfall and everything like that?
just like tiny, half inch.
Oh, and that's enough. Yeah, in Vancouver, that's enough to set everything off. Yeah.
Yeah, there's just car accident videos on YouTube constantly for the next week and a half. So it's
Yeah, I
awesome.
love it. I love
Yeah.
it. I was out there last year. Yeah, I think it was right at Christmas.
Yeah.
When you guys had that crazy snowfall.
Oh yeah.
That was brutal, man. My flights got canceled.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I had to I flew into Seattle. My flights got canceled going into Vancouver. I had to get a bus up from Seattle into Vancouver because like all the flights were canceled and then everyone was jumping on different flights. It was that or fly to Portland and then fly to Vancouver. It was like just chaos.
Yeah, that sounds like a big shit show.
Yeah, yeah,
Was
yeah.
that for Just For Laughs last year?
No, no, I was just coming home for Christmas last year.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
This
yeah.
was and so like this was 2022.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I was in doing some research. I saw that you lived in Port Coquitlam and graduated Terry Fox Secondary.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's all true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh, go
What's
ahead.
that?
No, I was gonna say, when did you make the move? Because I know you moved to Toronto for a while.
Yeah, I moved to Toronto in I think 2014.
Oh,
But yeah, I lived in BC until I was like 18 or 19.
oh, cool, cool. And yeah, I actually just moved out of Poco. I moved out further east, but to Maple Ridge. But
Yeah.
um, anything when you come back to this area, do you ever come back and visit? I guess you said you have family here, so they still live out in the Lower Mainland somewhere.
Yeah, my dad's still in Poco, so I'll go see my dad. He still lives like in Southside Poco, so that's like a neighborhood I'm very familiar with. So I'll go like there's like a shawarma, not shawarma, a donair place that I always go to when I go back because I'm
Oh,
like, and I ate it again recently, and I was like, is this good or is it bad?
yeah,
Is it just nostalgia? Because
yeah.
I last time I was back, I had it again. I have it every time, and I always love it. And this last time I ate it, I was like, I don't know if this is good.
I think
Uh,
yeah, I think I know the place you're talking about, and it was good, and now it's not
and
good.
now it's not good.
Yeah,
Okay, okay.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's gone down.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So it was like eternally good because that place has been there since I've been there. Like
Oh,
that place has been there for like it's gotta be over 20 years.
yeah, yeah, for sure. It's been that long, and it
Yeah.
used to be amazing, and now it's like average at best.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I always go to Megabyte. Megabyte pizza
Oh yeah.
is like I don't know if Megabyte is like bad, but I know it's bad. Like
Yeah.
they have that like macaroni pizza that has like the bechamel or like whatever the Alfredo sauce is the base with like
Yeah.
macaroni on top. And I eat it and like my thoughts slow down after. Like I get dumber from eating that pizza.
Yeah.
It's so like, dude, it's just carbs on carbs on carbs with just like greasy dairy. And then you dip it. What Megabyte does so hard is that their garlic mayo
Oh,
dip, whatever that is,
yeah.
just fire, dude. I
Yeah.
love that. So
It's
that's
fucking
always
tasty.
a go-to. Usually if I'm coming home and I don't Uber up or I don't get picked up from the airport and I take the SkyTrain,
Yeah.
I'll stop. I'll literally get off the SkyTrain at Commercial to
Yeah.
go to the Megabyte location there,
Yeah.
like that first one, and eat pizza and then be like, okay, I got that in me. Now I can go do
Yeah.
the rest of the things I got to do.
It's almost like, yeah, it just it calms your brain down. It's got some chemical reaction in there.
Yeah, I don't know
It's
what they're cooking. They have that one that has a hot dog on it too. And I'm
yeah.
like, yo, this is so bad for me. This is just
Yeah.
fucking my life up, but I
It's
love
great.
it.
It's great at 3 in the morning after going out though.
Oh,
Oh, it
yes.
fucking fixes you good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
So I was gonna mention your social media game is obviously crazy on point. Your
Hmm.
TikTok has been like a masterclass. You've just annihilated that whole TikTok scene. Um, you've definitely obviously grown a huge fan base. You're like 7 million on TikTok or something like that.
Hmm.
Um, have you had fans through social media come out to your comedy shows and be like surprised by your material, like as a based on what they would expect you from social media to be different, somehow different live or something?
So I think the surprise that they get is the quality of the stand up, because not everyone knows that I'm a stand up first.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people think, oh, this TikTok guy is doing stand up. It's like, no, I've been doing stand up for over 10 years. I only started making TikToks so people come out to the shows. That's
Yeah.
the whole reason. Um, so I think that's the surprise is people
Yeah.
go like, oh my God, that show was incredible. And I go like, yeah, this is actually what I do best. Like if you like the TikToks, if you think the TikToks are funny,
Yeah.
you're like, this stuff is way better, dude.
Yeah.
But I think the in terms of like material, the transfer from what I'm doing in my content versus what I'm doing on stage is, I shouldn't say one to one, because you're
It's
not going to see the same jokes in the material as you're going to see in the content, but the streamline of sense of humor. Like if you find my content funny, you will absolutely find the stand up funny, because it's all coming from me and at a very authentic place of my sense of humor.
nice. So that's it's you in both places, and you're not trying to cater to one to get
Yeah,
people to go to the other. That's yeah, that's pretty awesome.
exactly. Yeah.
That's with having such a huge follower count, do you get just crazy inundated with like DMs from fans and
They
stuff like
can't, like, it's all pretty filtered, because like
okay.
I think my account is so big now that on any platform, if you message me, unless we follow each other, it just goes into a request folder. So all that's, I do get a lot of messages, but
Okay.
I see almost none of them,
Oh, crazy.
because they all just get filtered into, yeah, the request for the hidden folder.
Oh,
Um, so it doesn't get too wild. I do post some of the wildest DMs I get,
yeah,
because
yeah,
I
I've seen
will,
those.
yeah, I'll dig through every now and again just to see what's cooking in there, because some people send me some fucking chaotic. Also, can we swear? Is it fine if I
Oh,
swear?
definitely 100%. Say
Okay,
whatever
cool,
you want.
cool,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, people send me chaotic stuff, like just and I think what has happened is they started as kind of joke. I think they started as like sort of legitimate approaches from like women, but they were kind of trying to be funny, and then as I started posting them, it almost has inspired people to
Yeah.
be more creative and more disgusting in
Yeah.
what they're sending me, which I love. I think it's so good. It's become like this writing exercise,
Yeah.
and just because I've attracted very like-minded people in terms of like sexual freedom and sexual positivity and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
And so people are like just want to be perverts in these messages, which I think is so funny. I think it's very, very funny and very fun to play with.
That's awesome. They're like just pushing the envelope and trying to see if they can float to the top and get
Yeah,
on
yeah, yeah.
and have you post the
Exactly.
crazy shit they're posting to you.
Like some girl posted or sent me a message. She said, I'll let you crack an egg in my ass and fuck it till it scrambles. And I
Oh,
was like, like that's just so, like that's such a funny message.
that's
Like I
yeah.
couldn't even, like, I write jokes all the time and I don't know how, if I ever would come to that conclusion of something funny to say.
Yeah.
And I was just like that, like those are making me laugh. Those are the things I want to post. And those are, and also it was like originally started with me just posting a video of being like, these are my crazy DMs. And I did like two or three of them, and they did quite well. And I was like, I gotta kind of snowball this into more content. And then it also like kind of piggybacked off of me announcing a tour around the messages.
Oh,
So
okay.
being like, I get all these messages, these crazy horny messages from all these women, but they're all in different cities that I can't get to them. So I'm going to go on tour
Yeah.
and do stand up in all these cities with like the subplot, the B storyline. The
Yeah.
A storyline is I'm going on tour. The B storyline is I'm having sex with all these perverted chicks who are reaching out to me.
Smashing across North America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was like the inspiration for the Raw Dog tour.
That's all. That's all. That's awesome. That's. I imagine getting those fucking DMs and seeing the crazy shit. Like, there's, yeah. Sometimes you go like, how the fuck did anybody come up with this? Like,
Yeah.
is it a fetish thing? Like, is it a kink thing, or is it just them? You know, yeah,
I think people, based on what I put out there, I think
yeah,
for one, people feel very comfortable
yeah,
sending this to me. They
yeah,
know that they're going to get a positive response, and
yeah,
they're not going to be judged for
yeah,
that, for whatever they send me, and that I'm about that shit. I've
yeah,
one of the wildest sort of I guess side effects of the content I make, because I talk about people or women of all shapes and sizes
yeah.
and the different ways I find them attractive. I get people who message me or are in my comment section being like, this has made me feel so comfortable about myself. And I think that's great.
Oh yeah,
And I've said this before, that has never been the intention. The intention has always been just make funny content
yeah.
and have a good time. I think it's great though that some people watch it and they get like some sort of security out of it though. That's very
I
fun.
think just talking about it in any way, as long as like, yeah, you're pretty like joking around, but you're positive about it. So
Yeah.
people feel like, oh, well, this is okay. And maybe I'll say this thing and it sounds crazy. And he'll be like, oh, that's cool. Like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
And
it's not a big deal.
I get those people at my shows as well who are just like about that life, like different type of like fetish culture people,
Yeah.
and who are or just like the horny bros, just
Yeah.
dudes who are like, yeah, I want to talk about feet or getting pissed on or whatever.
Yeah.
They're like, let's fucking go, dude. Just
That's awesome.
being the freest, most perverted version of themselves, which is great.
I think you've cracked into a weird, like, to cross that over into comedy is almost like it's an interesting way to crack it into that sort of kink fetish scene to like pull
Yeah.
that over. Just like now you're slowly becoming like some sort of kink king. People feel like they can just, you know, dump their fucking brains out at you, and then it's all cool. There's no
And
big deal.
I find that stuff very interesting. Hold on, am I shaking? Yeah,
Yeah,
give me one sec here.
no worries.
Sorry,
Uh,
my dryer was going off and
No
just
worries.
like
I thought you were just having like a stroke or something.
shaking my whole apartment here. There we go. That'll be on pause for a while. But yeah, no, I think it's just like, again, just another side effect. Like I have a very wide range of people come see me. Like there's a lot of like, you'd be surprised how many people who are like in their 40s
Yeah,
come out to my shows and are just
yeah,
like, we just love it, we think it's so funny. A
yeah.
lot of bros, I would say bros are like the
Oh
cornerstone of the
yeah,
whole thing. And
yeah.
then another percentage of people who are like, yeah, this is like, we just are the horniest people you could ever imagine.
That's awesome.
But it all just happens like, none of this was like calculated. I
Yeah,
just was being my authentic self and what I create, and then
yeah.
I just found other people who resonated with that.
That's awesome. You do a lot of crowd work too. I mean, you post a lot of crowd work clips. Have you ever had anything go like crazy wrong because of that? Like even like physically or anything like that?
No, I've never been like no one's ever jumped on stage
Oh,
or
yeah,
chased after me or anything like that. I'm pretty like I don't know. I guess the questions I also, when I do crowd work, I'll ask out to the crowd. So I
yeah,
go, does anyone do this? Does anyone have this? Does anyone da 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 da? And then people will put up their hands or yell out or something. And so I'm talking to the people who want to talk. So
nice.
it's like I'm never looking at someone go, oh, you. It's every now and again you'll see someone who has like a certain way about them or a
Yeah,
certain look or something. You go, I have to talk to this guy.
yeah,
Who
yeah,
is this guy right here?
yeah.
So I find it, yeah, I avoid any problems with that.
That's awesome that you're inviting them to participate themselves as opposed to
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
the old school way of just attacking somebody for having a lazy eye or whatever.
And I feel like definitely now where I've hit a point where people come to the show and they've seen a lot of the crowd work clips and they know the questions I'm going to ask, and they come almost loaded with like, I have this story.
Nice.
I want to tell him this. So then that's how you're going to find some of your finest things.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's like a new era. There seems to be like with TikTok and that sort of stuff, a lot of crowd work stuff because it gets posted a ton. Like you look at Matt Rife
Yeah.
or Nate Jackson or all and you as well. Like it's just the crowd work. People see that it feels I don't know what it is. They just feel connected to it or something.
Well, what the reason for crowd work, at least from our perspective as stand-ups, is it allows you to get a lot of stand-up content out there, because
Oh,
now the
yeah.
beast of social media is feed me every day, all
Yeah.
the time. Like I post 3 times a day on Instagram. I
Jeez.
post twice a day on TikTok. I post on Reddit a couple times a week. I'm posting on Threads and Twitter, and I post everywhere almost every day. There's a few platforms that I post maybe twice a week.
Yeah.
Um, but this is because the social media beast consumes so much, especially with the takeoff of short form content with
Yeah.
this like TikTok style content. Crowd work clips allow comics to create a ton of moments and a ton of content that they can keep putting out without sacrificing their material, which
Yeah.
takes so much time to craft.
Yeah.
Not everyone who watches or consumes stand up understands how long it takes to write a joke, and why like pro comics like the best of the best put out a special every 3 years,
Yeah.
because that's how long it takes to
To
make an
polish.
hour of
Yeah.
yeah, to polish an hour of
Yeah.
stand up.
It's
uh,
crazy.
yeah. So that's what it is.
Okay.
And there's obviously like critiques around it. Like I've heard some comics, like very established comics, talk about how they don't like this crowd work clip thing, but it's just the new version of paying your dues is what it is.
Yeah.
Like not every comic wants to be doing crowd work all the time and putting out crowd work clips all the time. But
No.
just like back in the day when you were like, I got to write for late night, and then maybe I got to write jokes about some news story that I don't give a shit about. Or I got to go on the road and do like real dingy clubs and stuff like that,
Yeah.
which we still are doing. But it's just a new element that allows you to pay your dudes and build your audience in this new algorithmic based market.
Makes sense. Yeah. That was actually something I was going to ask next was because I've seen you on the podcast circuit,
Mm-hmm.
hitting like Bertcast and Are You Garbage and a ton of others.
Mm-hmm.
And I always thought about, I mean, the crowd work thing makes sense because it's controlled. But
Mm-hmm.
when you're doing podcasts, is it hard? Are you ever worried about burning material, like, are by accident even?
No, I'm not really. I feel like you're pretty conscious. You're so conscious of what your jokes are. And when I do podcasts, my whole thing, because I watch some other people on podcasts, like a great example is like Mark Norman.
Oh
Mark
yeah.
Norman is so funny on
Yeah.
podcasts and has so many quips and so many moments. And I'm like, that's just not me.
Yeah.
I'm not a quippy guy. I'm not clever like that. Like I can't come up with like puns on the fly. Like I'm just not. So I was like, just be your authentic self. And like, I just joke about what I joke about. I tell the stories that I tell. And you kind of learn it from just doing stand up, from doing crowd work. I years and years and years ago, I wanted to book more commercials.
Okay.
So I took an improv acting class, and
Yeah.
that kind of taught me to like trust my first thought and go with it, which helps with your crowd work a ton.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's like the same thing when you're on a podcast. You're on a podcast and something happens, and it sparks a memory or sparks an idea, and you go like, oh, I can tell this story. And then you go into that story and it rolls into something else, and and you just kind of keep going with the flow in the moment. But I find I rarely will do bits on a podcast. Sometimes
Yeah.
I will, and they're usually throwaway bits that didn't work on stage.
Getting
And
some piece of it out there, just yeah, because you're not going
yeah,
to
it's
do
like
anything with it anyways.
might as well use it somewhere.
Yeah.
If I wasn't
Yeah.
using it on stage, might as well use it on a pod or something.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, this podcast culture, and I mean, just everything changing is just surrounded by humor and everything. And somebody like you who's generating constantly, I always wondered if that was like if that was a worry ever of just burning things by accident. So that's cool to know that you're, just it's almost separated in your brain. Like
Yeah, yeah,
you're
because
being authentic.
yeah, it's a different medium. Exactly. I
Mm.
just try to that is like, if there's anyone listening to this who's like, oh man, I want to get into stand up or just entertainment or something,
Yeah.
and they're confused or concerned or like wondering about where to start, being yourself is the easiest thing you can do. Because if you try to be like a character or an
Yeah.
impersonation or something, or you're trying to fit into a slot that you think the industry wants,
Yeah.
the problem is that you have to like kind of second guess yourself every time. You have to second guess your first instinct and move in this other direction. When you're just being yourself, you just react the way
Yeah.
you would react, and then it goes into the content.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's an old school way of thinking of playing a character. I think the stand-up comedian that's like a character, that was like an old way of thinking. It almost feels like
Yeah.
everybody has to be more authentic because the way you're getting out there, like podcasts and social media, if you're having to put that through a filter, it's gonna get really complicated real quick.
Yeah.
To
And they
yeah,
get like, yeah, with how much every person is putting out there of themselves,
yeah,
the audience gets so much of you.
yeah,
So it would be hard to not be yourself.
yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. You released an album, I think it was back in 2020 maybe. Uh,
That sounds right.
yeah, Tales from My Butthole.
Yeah, yeah.
Is there any plans or anything soon to maybe drop a new album or a special of some sort in the future that you might be working towards?
We're looking at how that could happen,
Yeah,
like potentially making a deal with someone, seeing if anyone would be interested to buy it. We got like stuff floating around right now, so I would hope that in 2024 we have something filmed, edited, and released, but it
yeah,
could be longer away than that.
yeah.
But yeah, I have the next chunk of stuff ready to go.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I would assume due to the size of Toronto, like you were in Toronto for a while doing
Mhm.
this stand-up scene there is much bigger. So I'm assuming it's a better place to grow compared to like the Vancouver scene where there's like two places you can do comedy essentially. Which place has the better crowds compared Toronto to Vancouver?
Oh man, it's that's such a hard answer. Like the which place has good crowds and for me it's skewed now because whenever I go to these cities, I'm doing my people.
Yeah,
So it's like my people wherever I go.
yeah,
And across Canada, you get like I find there's less drastic change from like Vancouver to Toronto or Alberta to like the East Coast or something like that.
yeah,
It's where in America I think you get a little bit more of a drastic change when you go from state to state.
yeah,
Um that's I haven't performed in Vancouver in so long, so that's very hard to say.
yeah,
I think the one thing about Toronto crowds is sometimes they can feel more jaded, and I think that's just because the selection of stuff to do in Toronto is greater.
yeah,
Like if you're doing a show in Toronto and people come out to see you, you're also competing against probably like a giant musical act that's performing at the Scotiabank Arena,
yeah,
and the Raptors and the Blue Jays and the Leafs,
yeah.
and then some others, I don't know, whatever, a Canada's Wonderland or whatever other thing you can do. And there's a lot of that stuff in Vancouver as well, but just to a smaller scale. So I
Yeah.
think you get a little bit less of a jaded audience.
Makes sense.
Um, so maybe I would give the tip to Vancouver, but I like I said, I haven't
Yeah,
performed in Vancouver. Last time I performed in Vancouver
almost 2 years
would
ago.
uh no, I because I didn't perform all of COVID. Every
Okay.
time I came out, I wouldn't it would have been like maybe like 2019 was the last
Oh,
time I
jeez.
performed in Vancouver, maybe before that.
Yeah.
Because yeah, during COVID I never would, because my parents or my dad's older, so I wouldn't risk going out and having anything happen. And now every time I go home too, I just really just visit family, and I
Oh,
try
nice.
to focus on just being with my family and
Yeah.
not working.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, it's good to know. I mean, uh, yeah, I didn't realize it had been so long since you had been here. I thought you had been here a couple of years ago for some reason, but
I
yeah.
I've been there, but
I
just
mean
not
to
performing.
perform.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's awesome. Well, it'll be awesome to see you because you're here I guess in a month almost for Just for
Yeah.
Laughs Vancouver. And yeah, it's pretty awesome. I guess I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I'll let you get on with your day, and it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. And I will be at your Vancouver show to watch you murder there. And I hope you have a amazing day.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
This has been very fun. The Vancouver show will be sick. February 24th, if I'm not mistaken.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, part of Just for Laughs Vancouver.
Yeah.
My first time being a part of Just for Laughs Vancouver, so it was such a great way. It's gonna be at the Vogue Theatre,
Yeah.
and it's gonna be like a lot of the boys in my family and a lot of stuff coming out. So it's gonna be, yeah, a lot of people haven't seen me perform in a long time. A lot of people have never seen me perform, and that know me from like high school or from growing up and all this kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
it's going to be an interesting one. I'm
Nice.
very excited for it. It's a very important show for me.
That's awesome. Yeah, good hometown show. Show off your
Yeah,
skills. It'll be awesome. I'm stoked to see you. I've been wanting to see you live for a while, so it'll be awesome to see you. And I know the rest of Vancouver is excited to have you out too. So
amazing. Well, thanks
awesome.
for having me, man.
Thanks, Jay. You have yourself a great day.
Right on. You too.
Thanks. Thanks. Bye. Well, that was a really good chat. I enjoyed that conversation with Che, and I truly appreciate him giving up some of his time to speak with me today. It was very kind of him. I want to wish him best of luck and support in his future career, though based on his trajectory, he doesn't need my vote. The guy is absolutely killing it. If you haven't checked him out, you can head over to his website, chedurena.com, and from there you can get the links to all his socials and listing of all his tour dates and all sorts of other fun things. And with that, I just want to say thank you for watching, and I'm out. Live, love, rock and roll.